Welcome back to Advocate with Dr. Rufus Lowe. Remember to visit my podcast to see the full presentation of this show and others on YouTube. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Also, if you believe in shadow tolerance and independent truth-telling, join me on Patreon to keep this work live. Shall we begin? First of all, I want to address us as family. Today we're having a conversation many people try to avoid. Not because it's unclear. It's because it's somewhat convicting. We're about to talk about the actual difference between following Christ and following movements that use Christ's name. Okay? Faith versus control. Spirituality versus manipulation. Christianity versus Christian nationalism. So let's start by telling the truth. Before we critique anything, we must start here. Let's start with the truth. What did Jesus actually teach? Okay? I don't want to hear what politicians teach or what preachers with certain agendas in the pulpits preach or teach. I don't want to see any viral video clips. What did Jesus actually teach? And here's what he did. He taught love your neighbor, care for the poor, welcome the stranger, forgive your enemies, serve instead of dominate, heal instead of harm, protect the vulnerable, speak truth to power. And most of all, he hated hypocrisy and he wanted you to reject it. He spent more time confronting religious elites than he did sinners. And that matters. See, Jesus was humble, accessible, compassionate, courageous, nonviolent, honest. He ate with outcasts. He defended women. He embraced children. He challenged corruption. So when people tried to make him political, he would simply just walk away. He never built empires. He built people. So keep all this in mind. Now, at the same time, folks, we need to be honest. And I think that's what this country has a problem with. That's being honest. Much of what we see today does not resemble Christ in the slightest. What we see is power obsession, fear messaging, blind loyalty, us versus them thinking, political idolatry, excused cruelty, silenced critics, protected abusers, and it's baptized all as faith. That's not Christianity. That's branding. So let me go into slow teaching mode. Let's call it what it is. Many movements today use cult tactics. Yep, I said it. Cult. Absolute authority. Fear control, tribal identity, political worship, moral hypocrisy. Jesus welcomed questions. Jesus freed people from fear. Jesus broke barriers. Jesus warned against idols. Jesus condemned hypocrisy. And that's the contrast. Jesus confronted religious leaders constantly. Blind guides, whitewashed tombs, hypocrites. And why? Because they looked holy and they lived cruel. They protected status. They ignored suffering and called it righteousness. Sound familiar? Folks, this just like we see today. This isn't absent theology. This harms real people. Immigrants, the poor, women, minorities, victims, truth itself, all sacrificed on the altar of power. That's spiritual abuse. And Jesus, at every turn, opposed it. Let me connect this to Shadow Tolerance Revealed, my book. Because Jesus already warned us through the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. Lazarus sat outside the gate. He was hungry. He was sick. Hardly anybody noticed him because he was invisible. But inside the gate was comfort, security, abundance. Every day, the rich man walked past him, not attacking, not insulting, just ignoring. That, folks, is shallow tolerance at work. And in my book, I explain the rich man wasn't condemned for cruelty. Could have been, but he wasn't. He was condemned for comfort, not violence, indifference. He tolerated the suffering. It was okay to walk by Lazarus as long as it didn't interrupt his lifestyle. So this is kind of like direct convicting. So family, that's where modern Christianity gets exposed. People don't hate the poor necessarily. They just walk past them. They don't attack immigrants. In some cases they do, but for the most part. They vote against their humanity. They don't curse the sick. They cut health care. They ignore the vulnerable and call it God's will. Pity. Shame, shame. No, that's shadow tolerance. So I wrote in my book, evil doesn't need your participation. It only needs your permission. The rich man gave permission. And by doing nothing, that's what you do. You give permission. Christian nationalism builds those gates, borders of belonging, tests of loyalty, walls of ideology. Jesus called that failure. When the rich man finally saw Lazarus, finally noticed his presence, it was much too late. Shadow tolerance, folks, always understands too late. It understands after the harm is done, after the loss, after regret. Jesus says, don't wait. Live your faith now. Real Christianity looks like feeding the hungry. Real Christianity looks like welcoming refugees, visiting prisoners, defending victims, challenging injustice, living truthfully, loving boldly. It doesn't need propaganda. Make America great again. It needs courage. So, in reflection on yourself, ask, does my faith make me more loving? Does it make me more humble, more honest, more just? Or does it make me angry, more fearful, more political, more judgmental? Check your fruit, because you should be known by your fruit. True faith survives questions. It welcomes accountability. It admits mistakes. It grows in humility. If your church can't be questioned, if your leaders can't be challenged, if your movement has no desire or can't repent, that's insecurity, not strength. So in closing, family, Jesus did not die for political empires. He lived to liberate. He taught to heal. He loved to transform. So today, we must choose Christ and not cults. We must choose compassion and not control. We must choose truth and not tribalism. We must choose humility and not power. Folks, choose love, not fear. If your faith is more comfortable with the rich man than with Lazarus, then folks, it's time to reread the gospel. This is Dr. Rufus Lowe, and I'll keep advocating for faith that frees, that sets us free, until the shadows have nowhere left to hide.